Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a beautiful day outside, always puts me in a good mood. Hey, let me know that you're tracking because I want to make sure I'm seeing engagement in the chat, that you're able to actually see it and engage the chat. Let me know what your core competency is. Just use 2 or 3 words that tell me what you guys do in your company. I just want to be able to see that, make sure my chat is working before I get rocking and rolling. I'm going to watch it for 1 second, see somebody pop in. Just not positive I got eyes on yet. Let me look. I'm checking out my phone to see if there's a LinkedIn. I don't know if you know this. LinkedIn crashed this morning. Okay, so it looks like people are engaging. I just can't see it on my tool, but I'm going to rock and roll because we got good training here. I want to talk to you about how to sell to the Army. It's really important, especially as we're into the end of the fiscal year 2025, going into 2026. We want to know how to be able to sell into such a huge agency, right? The Army is a department. It's a department within a department, Department of Defense. But the Army is the 3rd largest spender out there. Their budget is second only to Air Force this year for FY 2026. I think Air Force pulled ahead as number 1, then Navy, and then Army. But Army is the top spender for small businesses. If you look at a lot of the previous training I've done, I walk through and I talk about how the Army uses 8A small businesses, direct awards, et cetera, more than any other agency. They award to small businesses more dollars, more percentage than a lot of other agencies. So they're a really good agency to get into. If you're just starting, you want to sit there and build a relationship with teaming partners, and I'll talk more about that. But the Army is an option for everybody. They have highly secret classified stuff, and they have a ton of stuff that is not classified. And so there's room for all of us in there. I write here that the Army's budget, and it kind of is interesting to see where it'll all settle down going into FY 2026. But roughly for FY 2026, they're looking at almost $200 billion in budget. Excuse me. And that's roughly 20% of the entire discretionary spending that the government has. If you're not familiar with discretionary spending, you'll hear things like, hey, the federal government has trillions of dollars, which is totally true. Totally true. But like some of that goes to Social Security or something, where there's nobody who can touch that. It just gets paid out. So that's mandatory spending or money that just is earmarked and you can't touch it as an agency. And then there's discretionary spending, how the Army is going to spend the $200 billion. That's not all contract dollars. So some of that money goes towards the personnel they have, the civilian and military employees and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, still, that's a huge spend. And when you're thinking about trying to grow a company to $10 million, $100 million firm over 10 years, 20 years, as you think about growing your company in there, I always like choosing agencies like the Army that are big enough for me to pursue, and they could give me $50 million and it wouldn't bother them too much. And, a lot of my competitors could be in there getting $50 million. Doesn't mean I'm getting it tomorrow, right? But it means it's big enough. You always want to put your energy into a customer that's able to grow with you. Otherwise, you're going to have tons of different customers. And then the last thing I put here is just the Army buys everything. They really do. So maybe they don't buy battleships, right? The Navy does that. But fundamentally, they buy everything. And when you look in there and you're trying to figure out whether you can sell construction services or landscaping, other facility support type services or professional services and IT services, parts and products, the Army pretty much needs everything you buy. And so the key is to figure out how do you begin to work with the Army so that you understand what they need and their priorities, their challenges, and begin to align them to your products and services. And that's what we're going to be kind of talking about today. If that sounds good, if that's why you're here, put Army Rocks in the comments. Let other people know that you're excited to talk about the Army and get rocking and rolling. Army Rocks in the comments. Okay, so I'm going to break up how the Army does business or how to do business with the Army. And this is in particular for small business government contractors, how to do business in the Army into 4 sections for today's training. First thing is I just want to level set on understanding the Army. I teach a 7-step process for federal revenue success, and you can go learn about that elsewhere. But the first step is research, and research understanding the Army's commands, its organizational structure. When you understand that, you begin to have a big picture that allows you to have a strategic, smaller picture. The second thing I'm going to do is talk about where you can get help, right? It's hard to go it alone. It's really pretty impossible to go it alone as you grow bigger and bigger, right? And so I want to tell you about people who can help you navigate the Army. Third thing we're going to talk about is where these buyers are looking. It's really important to remember that there's inbound and outbound sales. Outbound sales is when you're knocking on a door saying, hey, I'm selling something, I'd love to talk to you about it. Inbound sales is when they say, hey, I got a need. Let me go see what kind of firms are out there, what kind of information's out there. That's inbound sales. Inbound sales in the federal market accounts for 99.9% of your sales. And for most of us, that gets completely ignored. And so the only growth we have, and this was on me as well, when I had my 2 government contracts, the only growth we have is our outbound activity. And I really want to talk to you about number 3 here, being where the buyers are looking so that you can increase your inbound sales. That means buyers knocking on your door to say, let's talk about your products and services. And then I'm going to wrap up today's training with talking about how to find Army opportunities. I want to give you some suggestions on where you can go and get moving. I appreciate the people from YouTube and Twitter coming in and commenting and LinkedIn. Just really quick before I move on. LinkedIn had an outage, massive outage today. I'm so thankful that they at least fixed it, so we're up and running. But apparently, I can't engage in chat on the tool I'm doing. So I'll come back and look at the chat later. But do me a favor, keep engaging because I will come back and look at it. Yesterday, we talked about HHS, and we had almost 300 people engaging in comments, et cetera. And that was really exciting for me to see. As I do this work and I put a lot of energy in, I want to be able to come back and get some of that energy from you, if you will. All right, if you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonough. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I'm founder of Call Plan AI, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. After I got out of the Army, I spent 20 years as a small business owner. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what I want for you. If you're not following me already on LinkedIn, make sure you do. Make sure you subscribe to my newsletter, Government Contracting Success Newsletter. It is the largest government contracting newsletter on LinkedIn. The most active newsletter. It's bigger than DoD's own newsletter. And it's because I constantly put information that you would value to do your job selling to the federal government. And then last thing is tomorrow's training. If you haven't registered already, join over 100 people who are already registered for it. And this is how to sell or how to do business with DOE, how to sell to DOE or how to do business with the Department of Energy. By the way, I mentioned over 100 people. The reason I do that is because this isn't just about training. I do these things also so I can bring you together with other people and you can grow your network by looking at what people put into the chat saying, hey, I sell this, or we're down here at this location, or we're targeting the Army, for example. That's your network. That's our community. And I'm really excited to be able to enable that. Just takes you saying hi to the other people and connecting with them. Okay, so I'm going to bounce back and forth between sharing my screen and doing some slides because I want to try to get as much real world stuff as I can in the next 22 minutes. It's always fun to talk about an organization's structure in a 30-minute training where the organization is like 2 to 3 minutes or something. They're too big, right? What I want to do with my training today around the Army's organizational chart is to get you started thinking about, oh, that's how the Army's organized at a high level. Here's how I might be able to navigate further. So the first thing I'm just mentioning, and I'm going to go show you in a second, the Army, when you think about their overall structure, they kind of break it up into these 3 big components is what I'm calling it. That's not the overall technical term, but they have Army commands. An example is Army's Futures Command, and we'll go look at that in a minute. But there's 4 of those. And then there's these Army Service Component Commands, and I might call them combatant commands. In fact, that might be what it is, and I might have spelled that wrong. But basically, they're the ones who are out there doing the mission, right? Organizing the fighting the war. And then you got direct reporting units, and there's 13 of these. And you can think about like Cyber Command. I almost describe it as the back office, right? You got the Army Service Component Commands or combatant commands are the ones going out fighting the wars, and the direct reporting units are the ones who are enabling all that to happen. This is my simple way of describing the Army that I was in. And so anyways, I want to talk to you about looking at that, because if you can understand an organization like the Army's structure, and how their offices are lined up, you can begin to understand where you should spend your time and where you should not. It's really important not to spend your time. And that's, you can think of that like dirt in a gold mine. Wherever you see dirt, it has to be there. You have to run into no's. You have to run into offices you're not going to knock on. That's dirt. Just move it out of the way so you can get access to the gold. The gold are the yeses from a customer. The gold is getting in and meeting with the offices that you want to. So let me share my screen here really quick and go show you briefly. It's funny. I don't know where I'm at. Hold on. Hopefully I'm in the right place. Close all this stuff. ZipRecruiter. I'm not doing free advertising. Come on, Army. Where are you, Army? Oh my God. Okay, good. I should have had this a little bit more in order. So this is the organization I'm talking about, right? Army Cyber's over here in component commands. But if you look in here, right, you can see the structure and you begin to figure out where are we going. A lot of people in IT are really attracted to Army Futures Command. But I would submit that maybe that's not where you belong if you're fairly new or you're fairly inexperienced, meaning don't have that many large contracts in there. That's a lot more strategic type thinking. But you might be able to support other areas like, the Army Corps of Engineers or CENTCOM, whatever it is that you can fit in. But the only way you can know that is if you start digging down. And so if you come down, this is a great starting point, by the way, army.mil/organization, if somebody wants to throw it in chat for me. But if you come down, you start seeing what these are, right? The Army Future Command will modernize the Army for the future. They're big ticket thinker. Actually, if you look at how big the command is, it's not that big. And then you have Army Materiel Command. I just put out a huge document this morning talking about, it's a resource guide on how to navigate Army Materiel Command. That is one that I think most government contractors and small businesses absolutely want to get into, right? Then you got Force Command and TRADOC. So training and doctrine command, right? If you do anything related to developing the soldiers within the Army, right? That might be a place you lock onto. And then as you start coming down, you can start digging more. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but as you come down, you start looking at these. Take the time, take a couple of weeks. If you're trying to make millions off the Army, take a couple of weeks and really understand the org chart. The excitement I feel when I do this stuff makes me thirsty. But I really wanted to pause. I got Army Cyber Command. I did this chart here, if you can see it. It's on a tool called MindMeister, and this is a tool I pay for. And anyways, one of the things I wanted to do was understand DoD cyber practice for one of my customers. They were pushing in on cyber. They really wanted to push in on DoD cyber. And they were like a small, large company, or a large, small, right? However you describe it. But what I wanted to do is to truly understand, where is DoD spending their 10 or $15 billion on cyber out there. And so what I did is built an org chart of the entire DoD cyber footprint. An example is, if I come into Army Cyber Command right here, if I come down, you'll start seeing that I have hundreds of offices listed that are doing cyber. I'm able to come in here and start learning, right? I don't need to understand it wholly. And for me, I put notes and attachments where I'm looking at their stuff. But I begin to see military intelligence stuff. These are people who have access to the money. If I come farther down, right, I can see where Army headquarters, or the headquarters is for Army Cyber Command, the different major commands they have. Here they've got regional cyber centers. When I was first doing that, I didn't even know they had that, right? But it enabled me to go in and go, oh, let me learn about those. And if I come down even further, hey, I have a touch screen that wasn't moving if you saw me leaning forward. Anyway, so here I started coming down farther and trying to look at the Army Center of Cyber Center of Excellence. I wasn't aware, but once I'm in there, I can start pursuing it. And this org chart enabled me to just lay out hundreds of cyber commands within DoD. That enabled us to create a strategy around pursuing business with DoD around cyber. So anyways, all that was related to the org chart. Take the time to understand it. In the Army, start with army.mil and then /organization, if somebody was nice enough to put that in. And I'll come back and try to do a post on all these links I'm sharing so you have access to them. Okay, so that's the organizational side. Well, let's talk about people. How do you get into the Army, especially how do you get in the Army if you haven't been there? But I have people who are doing 10 plus million who are in the Army who struggle to get further in the Army. It's because they're in this command and not that command, and how do you move forward? And so I want to give you some tips on who the roles of people you can talk to. My favorite, all-time favorite one to get into any command or any agency are small business prime contractors. And again, the training I do is valuable to billion-dollar firms. 100% it is, because it's process. But I'm only here to really help you, the small business salesperson within the federal market, right? And so small business prime contractors are the very best people for us to reach out to. We can reach out to them by going to FPDS, find the small businesses that have won contracts with the Army, selling things that are similar to what we sell, and then we find their contact information, reach out, ask for an introduction meeting. If you reach out to 20 people, I guarantee you 2, 3, 4 of them are going to say yes. It doesn't mean they're going to work with you, right? It means they'll say yes to have a conversation. And if you go in and you're prepared to have a really good meeting, you can turn that into a relationship that turns into opportunities that turn into revenue. That's how sales works, right? It doesn't go straight to the sale. There's an activity and a process. And starting with these relationships is vital, having a good meeting in there. Second group of people you can talk to are the small business professionals within the Army. There's many of them. And I'm refreshing my directory of small business professionals within the federal government. It's about 1,200 plus people who are all federal employees in the role of small business professional specialists. But you can reach out to them. They'll talk to you and they'll help you navigate. Third one is the small business liaison officers from large primes. So if your company is doing decent work, I told you about that firm doing 10 million, for example. If they're in there, they should be building a relationship with any large that's also in the Army that's around what they sell. They should have a solid relationship with number 3, the small business liaison officer, or SBLOs. And so the way you find out who's in the Army is go to fpds.gov, find the winning large primes, then reach out on their website, try to find the small business liaison officer, contact them, ask for a first meeting. This is all classic relationships, right? Ask for the meeting, have a really well-prepared meeting so that you can have success, and you start moving forward. Number 4 is one that sometimes people just aren't even aware of. The SBA has this role that people fill, and there's about, I can't remember, but I think there's like 90 of them. It's just PCRs, right? Or excuse me, there's probably like 40 of them. And they're procurement center representatives. These people basically have oversight over the contracting activity of different agencies that they're responsible for. And basically they sign off saying it's okay to push something full and open instead of going small, right? That's a very simplification of what they do in that activity. But my point is, go figure out who they are. Just go to sba.gov, search for PCR, find out which ones are responsible for the Army, your particular command, if you're that tight, and reach out, introduce yourself. Say, hey, I'm trying to get further into the Army. Can you introduce me to a contracting officer, small business professional? Maybe you're struggling that way. They're a person who can help you. Apex Accelerators used to be called PTACs. These counselors have relationships with people. So go ahead and reach out to them. Make sure you're taking advantage of them. I love it when Apex Accelerators say, it's free. It's not free. You just don't have to pay, but taxpayers are paying, right? DOD is funding. The local states and universities are funding the PTACs or the Apex Accelerators to be there for you. Take advantage of your investment. Reach out, build a relationship with them. Don't judge them. I did that when I was running my own companies, and totally to my detriment, right? I could have had so much more success if I learned to follow up with the Apex Accelerators. So definitely reach out to them. Contracting officers are obvious. The best way to find them, just in general, go to FPDS, find contracts you wish you won, find offices that you're trying to get into, and right at the top right-hand side of FPDS, for every opportunity or every item, you'll see the contracting officer, some piece of information that leads you right back to the contracting officer. And then the last one for the Army are, I'll show you this in a second. Maybe I'll show you right now. But the Army Contracting Division and branch chiefs, I put out so much content. This is why I'm telling you, follow my LinkedIn. Come on. It's great to see all these people, but I can't stop messaging. Okay, right here. Here's an example. Army Contracting Command, APG, Aberdeen Proving Ground. These guys do all sorts of industry days, advanced planning briefs, so APBIs. But if you come in here and I start clicking, well, let me back up one second. No. Where's the one I like? Oh, here. So I just did this post a couple of days ago, I think. and it's Army Contracting Command. And if you come in here, this is 19 leaders in here. So right here, I say, here's contracting division chiefs. You can reach out to these people. We do this for our customers. What I'm teaching you right now is what we do for our customers to help them get in the door and to have successful meetings that move from this person to somebody on their team, etc. But you want to find these contracting chiefs. Oh, sorry, I got all excited sharing it. But again, if you go into my newsletter, it's the very last newsletter article I did was Army Contracting Command people. Okay, let me go to get 10 minutes left. Where the Army buys. So number one place any federal buyer looks is DSBS, and now it's called the SBA Small Business Search, but DSBS stands for the Dynamic Small Business Search Tool. And this tool is where all small businesses are have additional information on top of SAM that talks about their company. And this is where all contracting officers are taught. If you're trying to do market research, go there. That's where all the small businesses are. That's where you can see if they're a HubZone, woman, SDVO, 8A, certified, right? You can validate some of that stuff. And so you want to make sure you're in there. The thing I want to stress, and I'm not going to spend too long because I want to go to the opportunities. The thing I want to stress is that we are all invisible to the buyer. Right now, it is just staggering how invisible we are to the buyer. If you look at just women-owned small businesses, these are certified, not self-certified, SBA certified women-owned small businesses as of August 12th, whatever day today is, right? As of August 12th, there's 17,079 women-owned small businesses certified by SBA. 15,000 do not have a capability statement in their profile. When you do your own searching, trying to find vendors, etc., you do this thing called shortlisting. You just look, and if you don't see something, you move on. It's subliminal. It's kind of like when you're trying to hire somebody and you say, and you go through and you go, well, if they don't have an MBA, I'm not going to even look, right? It's like, wait, what? I didn't know you were only looking for MBA. Well, this is the easiest thing you could do is go in to DSBS, update your profile. It takes literally 5 to 15 minutes, depending on whether you've ever logged in before. But it's one field. You put your website link to your capability statement, and now you've done one thing to be visible to these buyers. Remember I said inbound and outbound sales. Same thing with keywords. This is staggering for me. The women-owned small businesses, 17,000 of them, 13,000 have 0 keywords. That means even if you're the very best, even if you have tons of past performance, you're not going to be found. That's just a simple step to fix. All you have to do is go in and into DSBS again, or the SBA Small Business Search, put in the keywords that define your company: cybersecurity, facility support, lawn care, whatever it is, put those keywords in. So when the federal buyer searches for a company like yours, you at least come up on the list. All right, I get all excited about that one because it's so easy to fix. No one told me about it myself when I ran my companies for 20 years. It wasn't until I sold my last company and then I started teaching. I was like, oh my God, you never told me like this kind of stuff. So that's why I teach all the time, by the way. Okay, one other thing, the Army Contracting Command had this great supplier portal, this kiosk, and it was there a couple of weeks ago and it's gone now. So I think it's on hold. I'm going to reach out. But I just want to tell you, multiple agencies, not just in the Army, have their own supplier portal that they look at first before they might go to DSBS, right? And they go, hey, these are the people saying they want to work in the Army. Now let me go out and look at everybody since I couldn't find somebody here. When you're reaching out and talking to somebody, make one of your main questions, do you guys have a supplier portal where you look for small businesses like mine? Make that a standard question you ask always. You want to be where the buyers are looking. If you want to be findable, put that in the comments. Let me know you're still rocking and rolling. Findable in the comments to be found. Hey, I wanted to thank our sponsors really quick for the lives. I've been doing this a long time, and these sponsors are part of who helped make this happen and bring this training to you. So Graham, really appreciate them. They do staffing and American Sign Language services. Steel Toed, they do cybersecurity, in particular CMMC. If you're trying to get CMMC level 1, level 2, reach out to Steel Toed. And then Restream. This way I go live and I broadcast out there. I use a tool called Restream, and I thank them for making this possible. And then the last sponsor is my own company, CallPlan AI. So just go to www.callplanai. If you're struggling to have meetings that lead to relationships, that lead to opportunities, that lead to sales, go check it out. All right, let me do the last slide here because I got 5 minutes left. How to find Army opportunities. So there's all sorts of ways, and I'm going to give you just a few that you can really execute on. First off, if you go to the Army Contracting Command, to their website, and again, I'll put some of those links later in a post that I put out. But if you go to Army Contracting Command Small Business Office, you'll see they have a link for the Army forecast coming out of their office. And by the way, this office is it's not Army Contracting Command. I think it actually is Army Materiel Command. So it's the next level up, covering all of that. And they do most of the buying for the Army. Anyways, there's 3,000 opportunities in there. And I loved it when I was reviewing it because they're not from 2020. They're 2025 to 2030, and there's 3,000 of them. So make sure you get in there and look at it. That's a great way to find opportunities to start your journey to get in and have meetings and discovery. The second place, obviously, go to sam.gov. They have postings out there. The Army puts stuff out there constantly, and they're in 3 phases that I described, right? There's the RFI and sources sought phase where we're saying, hey, we're thinking about this. It's kind of coming up. There's RFQ and RFP, so request for quote and proposal. Those are here now, and I want to get bids. And then there's awards. And I always look at awards to find ones that I wish I had won. So I reverse engineer how to get back to that buyer. Whether I get back to them for this year or maybe a future year, I know they're buying when I sell. And so awards help me find that. Make sure when you're talking to anybody you're working with in there, ask them what the top contracting vehicles are that they use. You can learn this in fpds.gov, and your Apex Accelerator counselors can teach you that. But you can also just ask, hey, Johnny, what are your top contract vehicles that you use for what you buy? And then the last one is FPDS for expiring contracts. When I talk about opportunities, I'm looking at opportunities that are expiring. They are my favorite because they already spent money on them. The chances are higher that they'll spend money on them again and they'll stay on time compared to a brand new opportunity, which is guaranteed to shift to the right for those of us who've been doing this long enough. And it's the budget is all out of whack, right? So you don't even know if it'll actually come through. So I like going to FPDS, finding what I wish I had won, these expiring contracts, and getting the right ones into my pipeline. All-time favorite way to find opportunities, though, is build strategic relationships inside the agency, with teammates large and small, with the 7 people I mentioned earlier. Build relationships with these people. When you have a trusted relationship with them, they will sit there and tell you about opportunities coming. They're not going to tell you any backdoor stuff, but they'll sit there and say, hey, watch out for an RFI. It's going to be dropping. Thanks for the heads up. Okay, so those are some ways you can find opportunities. Here's what I want you to remember as you're trying to do business with the Army. First thing is the Army has the 3rd largest budget, and they definitely have room for you in there, right? They have room for you, for me, and all of our competitors. So go in there and knock on the door because they need what you sell. The second thing is they do need anything that you're selling. Unless you're selling a battleship or something only the Navy, for example, buys, they need what you sell. You just got to find the right command that's going to buy it. And then the last thing is they want to hear from you today. Start knocking on doors and make sure you make it easy for them to find you when they're going to go out looking for you. And websites are the least easy way. Use their tools to get found by them, and you'll increase your chances of success within the Army. Don't forget to register for tomorrow's training. It's selling to Department of Energy. If you need help building strategic relationships, the reason I started Call Plan AI was to focus down my efforts on my company and my training to pure sales. I believe that if you have the relationships, that will lead to hearing about opportunities, being able to submit proposals, and start winning more contracts. Check out Call Plan AI. If you come in early, it's live and it's good. But I'm still building. It's got a couple of bumps, et cetera. And so if you come in early, I'll give you 90% off for life. Okay, I'm out of time, but I'm doing good. For all of you, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.